Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy GZTV back with another video, and in this video we are going to be going over the games for NFL Week 10. We're going to start off with the game that actually ended really early. It just ended now. We're talking about the Rams and the Niners. The Niners pull off the upset despite the Rams picking up Von Miller and Odell. They still pulled it off. Maybe I should turn this on. Yeah. Okay. Passing wise, Stafford had 243 yards, a touchdown, and two picks. Deebo Samuel had a game. We'll get to him here in a little bit. But Garoppolo had 182 yards and two touchdowns, 15 for 19. So overall, Garoppolo had the best game than Stafford, the better game than Stafford, which is pretty unexpected. Rushing wise, Darnell Henderson only had 5 rushes for 31 yards, but Elijah Mitchell continuing to have a great rookie year, 27 carries for 91 yards. Receiving wise, there's a pretty good battle between Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel. Cooper Kupp had 122, and Deebo Samuel had 97 yards and a touchdown, and a rushing touchdown. So he had two total touchdowns and about 120 yards from scrimmage. Next, we're going to get into another upset game, Baltimore and Miami. Absolute stunner. Miami wins their second straight game, beats the Ravens by 12. Lamar Jackson had 238 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, and Tua Tagovailoa had 158 yards, although he only completed 8 passes for 13 attempts. Running wise, it was honestly a slow game for Lamar Jackson, 9 carries for 39 yards, and Myles Gaskin had 31 yards rushing. Receiving wise was pretty good. Bateman had 80 yards, and Wilson had 87 yards. That's pretty much that game. Moving on to the Sunday games. Those were the primetime games. We're going to get to the other primetime game later with Sunday Night Football, but we're going to talk about my Packers first. We always do that. Packers blank the Seahawks, beat them by 7 as Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson both returned a highly anticipated matchup against that involved 2 returning quarterbacks. Russell Wilson had 161 yards and 2 interceptions. Our best defensive performance of the year, kind of proving that we have a top 10 defense. And Aaron Rodgers had 292 yards and an interception. No passing touchdowns from either quarterback, which was kind of crazy, but crazy defense. Running wise, A.J. Dillon, great game, 66 yards for 2 touchdowns, and Alex Collins had 41. Receiving wise, Devontae had a pretty average 78 receiving yards, and Everett had 63 yards. So really good for our defense. I know Russell Wilson's finger probably wasn't 100% there, but yeah. Moving on to the next game, we have the Falcons and the Cowboys. Dak Prescott and the Cowboys back on track with a 40-point win against the Falcons. The Falcons get absolutely destroyed. They came off a game winner from Younghoe Koo, their kicker. Dak Prescott had 296 for 2 touchdowns, and Matt Ryan had a really bad 117 yards and 2 interceptions. Their best running back was actually Gallman. He had 55 yards. So they're kind of shifting Cordero Patterson away from the running back position, and Pollard had 42 yards rushing, so not very good running-wise, but receiving-wise, we had Kyle Pitts with 4 catches for 60 yards, and CeeDee Lamb, that guy's a beast. He had 6 receptions for 94 yards, and both of Dak Prescott's touchdowns. So that's great to see. Moving on to Titans and Saints, a very close game. Titans' NFL best winning streak now is 6. They beat the Saints by 2. Tennessee Titans have gone under the radar. They're definitely a top 3 team in the NFL. Winning this one. Trevor Siemian, though, he continues to play amazing. 298 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Ryan Tannehill had 213 for a touchdown. Running-wise, nothing too impressive. Melvin Ingram had 47. Mark Ingram, he actually returned to the Saints recently. He had 47 yards and a touchdown, and Devontae Foreman, I don't know his first name. Foreman had 30 yards. Receiving-wise, Johnson had 100 yards, and Damian Harris had 84 yards. Pretty good game, one of the better games of the week. Some of these other games were absolute blowouts, but yeah. Moving on to the next game, we have Jaguars and Colts. Jonathan Taylor has a big day. The defense blocked a punt, and the Colts beat the Jaguars by 6. Carson Wentz didn't do hardly anything. Neither of their quarterbacks did anything. It was a lot of running. Trevor Lawrence had 162 yards, and Wentz had 180. Jonathan Taylor, though, definitely top 5 running back in the league. He had 116 yards for a touchdown, and Agnew had 79 yards for a touchdown. Moving on to the receptions, Pittman had 71 yards receiving, and Arnold had 67. Arnold's honestly been a really good receiving option for the Jaguars this year. Next, another one of those blowout games against the Patriots and the Browns. Mac Jones tosses 3 touchdowns. Mayfield gets hurt as the Pats beat the Browns by 38, I think. Case Keenum had to fill in for Mayfield, and 8 through 12 for 81 yards, so that's pretty good for the snaps he got. And Mac Jones had 198 yards and 3 touchdowns off of 19 for 23. So possibly one of his best games of his career. He was throwing absolute dots out there. Great game. Dearness Johnson. All right, we're back. Kendrick Bourne had 4 receptions for 98 yards and a touchdown, so he's doing good, the former 49er. Moving on to the Bills and Jets, honestly, another blowout game. Josh Allen and the Bills defense dominate Mike White and the Jets, and I think how much did they win by? 28? Yeah, they won by 28. Josh Allen, 366 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Mike White threw 251 yards and 4 interceptions. I don't think I've seen a quarterback throw that many interceptions in one game. Rushing wise, Singletary had 43 yards and a touchdown, and Carter had 39 yards and a touchdown. Receiving, Corey Davis had 93 yards, a really good deep threat receiver for the Jets, and Stephon Diggs, amazing game, 162 yards and a touchdown. Great receiving battle there. Moving, holy crap, what is going on? Let's not, come on. They keep showing this Apple Music thing. Next is Detroit and Steelers, the first tie all season in the NFL. A comedy of errors as Steelers and Lions tie at 16. Jared Goff only had 114 yards, which is very bad. Mason Rudolph, his debut for the season, he had 242 yards, a touchdown and a pick, which isn't terrible for him. Running-wise, DeAndre Swift, 33 carries for 130 yards. I'm sure he's definitely gassed after running the ball that many times. And Najee Harris had 26 carries for 105 yards. A great battle between 2 young running backs. Receiving-wise, actually, Equanimeous St. Brown is on the Packers. His brother put up 61 receiving yards. And Deontay Johnson, who's been their number 1 receiver for quite some time, had 83 yards. Moving on to the Buccaneers and Washington, another upset. Brady got picked off twice in the first quarter. Bucs lose to Washington by 10. It was kind of too late at that point for him to turn it back up. Tom Brady had 220 for 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. And Heineke had 256 yards and a touchdown, so it's safe to say Heineke definitely outperformed Tom Brady, which is surprising. Running-wise, Antonio Gibson had 64 yards for 2 touchdowns, and Leonard Fournette had 47 yards. Receiving-wise, Mike Evans had 62 yards and a touchdown and only 2 catches, and a scary Terry McLaurin, 59 yards. Moving on, another upset, honestly, Panthers and Cardinals. The Superman sequel, they call it. Cam Newton leads the Panthers over the Cardinals. They win by 24, and Cam might be what they need. Passing-wise, P.J. Walker came in and played for the first time of the year, 167 for a pick. And there's some pretty garbage quarterbacks in this game. Colt McCoy had 107 for a pick. Running-wise, Christian McCaffrey had a great game, 95 yards rushing. He also had a good game receiving. We'll get to that. James Conner had 39 yards and a touchdown. Pretty weak performance compared to what he had last week without Chase Edmonds. Receiving-wise, though, Christian Kirk had 58 yards and McCaffrey had 66, so he ended up with a total of 161 yards from scrimmage. He's definitely known for that, and he wanted to make it known. Next is Vikings and Chargers. I would say this is slightly an upset, too. Vikings beating the Chargers. Kirk Cousins throws 2 touchdowns. Vikings bounce back to beat the Chargers. Kirk Cousins, 294 for 2 touchdowns. Herbert, 195 for a touchdown and an interception. Honestly, he's very inconsistent. People were trying to say he's the MVP, but he's had too many bad games, honestly, for that to be the case. Running-wise, Vikings offense was just on one this game. Dalvin Cook had 94 yards for a touchdown. Eckler, just 44 yards rushing. Receiving-wise, it was a good battle. Keenan Allen had 98 yards, and Jay Jettas. Justin Jefferson had 143 yards receiving. So, you know, Eagles Broncos. Honestly, is this considered an upset too? I mean, the Eagles are having a worse season than the Browns or the Broncos. Darius Slay's scoop and score leads the Eagles past the Broncos. They win by 17. Teddy Bridgewater had 226 yards, but he couldn't get in the end zone. Jalen Hurts only had 178 yards, but he still somehow got 2 touchdowns and a pick. He did go 16 for 23, so he didn't complete as many passes. Running wise, Jordan Howard had 83, and Williams had 48. Good game for Jordan Howard there. Devonta Smith, he had 4 receptions for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns on the receiving end. And a guy, I can't pronounce his name, I'm not even going to try, had 77 yards receiving for the Broncos. We're going to get into the Sunday night game, possibly the best QB performance of the week from Patrick Mahomes. He threw 5 touchdown passes, and he led the Chiefs past the Raiders, and they won by 26, I believe. 406 for 5 touchdowns. That's got to be a top 5 QB performance of the year. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks throw for 400 and 4 touchdowns, but 400 yards and 5 touchdowns is really impressive. Derek Carr on the other end, not a bad game. 261 for 2 TDs and a pick. Their run, I will say though, the Raiders' run offense was not there. Derek Carr was their leading runner with 18 yards, and Damian Williams was the leading KC runner with 43 yards, obviously. Pretty good big games for the receivers. Travis Kelce had 119 yards. I mean, he's really the best tight end in the league. And Edwards had 88 yards and a touchdown. So that's going to do it. Those were the games. I'll see you guys next week